experience.
So, Pastor, in dealing with God Embassy as a church, what was the first reaction of some of your people when you introduced? First of all, tell us, what did you introduce? Why did you introduce it that way? And what was the response or the first reaction of your people?
The first thing I introduced was that I told all my 700 pastors that they must all go to a school with me.
Wow.
I announced a school, a leadership school that was compulsory for people to go through. And if you don't go through it, you've got to listen to the tapes. And so that's maybe about 10, 12 hours of teaching. And then after that, it's not just business as usual. And these were pastors of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 churches, 500, 200, 100 churches. You know, these are people who already, some of them are very successful. And a lot of them were in my call group, my leadership group, my apostolic council. And so they were already well established, confident of themselves. And I said, anybody that will refuse to do that, that will not give, and not now, it's not just going to the school. Some of them could stay here with that. But then you have to give exams, and you have to pass the exam.
Wow. Wow.
So if you don't pass the exam, I'm sorry, you are free to go or lose your position.
Wow. And the fundamental
the first
reason,
reaction was,
yes,
5 of my 12 left.
Wow.
That was after the persecution, after the accusations. They didn't leave when the accusations were coming.
Yeah.
But they left when the changes in the church began to really hit. Because they were saying, but we have been faithful. I mean, we've been faithful. We've been faithful. We've been here all along. We've been faithful. I mean, why should we begin to be treated like kids or like schoolboys? I mean, why should we begin now to give exams? I mean, we need to go pastor. We need to go deal with our people. We need to go train people. And you're making us sit down like kids. I said, we love you. We stood there for you. We were there for you when the old government was against you. We were there for you when the press was against you. We were there when when everything was going wrong. We are there for you. And now, is that what you want to do with us? So they counted that as wickedness from my part. But those of them that were hearing God, because 5 left, 7 remained. But those 7 were the people, I later discovered that the 5 that left were people who were not practicing some of the things that I was doing, and that was compulsory for our people, for our pastors, our leadership, which is, they were supposed to be going to seek God every month. But they were no more doing it because they were successful, because the comfort had come. They had the results. They had the fame. They had the wealth. They had the conditions. They had they were successful. So that was the first reaction. That's just
wow. Wow.
And of course, when they left, I blessed them with the churches.
Wow.
I told them to take them to churches. I was ready to be left with just 1,000 people, but I knew if I would find 1,000 people, would be ready to do all these things. But that was just one thing. That's what I said. More were to come. Because just giving exams, going to the school, that's just one thing. And what that was meant to do was that it was supposed to create, because every month you are supposed to do a new exam. So it's supposed to create the atmosphere of heaven from the church to go with them home. So when they go home from the church, they are thinking of the assignment they need to do. They are thinking of the message and how to answer the questions.
I see.
So every day, instead of them watching the soap opera, instead of them running about on the internet, doing something, messing up, they have a deadline they needed to meet.
Wow.
And they are working on it till the end every day. So every day of the week, for the whole month, they have to be busy doing something connected to the kingdom.
Wow.
And we saw a piece of that in the...
You had the taste already, huh?
Noah described it, but as soon as the teaching came, I mean, maybe 2 hours of teaching, immediately we had to go and apply what we learned, had questions to answer. So even when I was eating my lunch, looking at my iPad and trying to type my answer. So I'm still thinking about the message even after the message is
and you still have to write it down.
I still have to write it down.
Sometimes still do research.
Yes.
And evaluate myself.
Pastor, it's not just doing assignments for doing sake, like you said. you wanted to hold the people responsible for what they were hearing.
Yes.
How would you apply that in today's church? Why must people be responsible for what they're hearing, unlike places where people just come to church and feel like it is the pastor's duty to do the teaching, it is my duty just to hear it?
Yes, one of the things you could do is not to apply this to the general church, but it's to start out with, the leadership, or just anybody in the church that wants to have more. Then on the ones on Sunday, if you don't want to chase all of them away like I did, you could keep on feeding them what they wanted on Sundays.
But there was a reason why you wanted to make them accountable. Did you feel the Word of God was too important just to be...
Well, because they were not having time to do that themselves.
Wow.
And they didn't consider it important because they were going to come back on Sunday anyway. And they were still going to have another word. So they didn't really need to work on it. So, and that's why the word was not becoming flesh in them. And I wanted the word to become flesh in them. I wanted the nature of God to be developed in them. And that's what made me who I am. So I really wanted to go through that. But even if not, it's not going to happen to all the members of the church, but I wanted to make sure that a good side of the church was doing this.
Pastor Sunday,
That's the only way you could raise up history makers. And that's the only way you could raise up sons. Otherwise, you're just having a bunch of flesh in your auditorium. That's it.
Wow.
They might be beautiful flesh, or big flesh, or small flesh, or clothed flesh, or cosmetic.